Ho, ho, ho! Is this thing on? Mic check. One sleigh, two sleigh. That's right. I've got a podcast now. Stories, jokes, and some serious North Pole nonsense. Santa Has a Podcast is out now at santahasapodcast.com. Ho, ho, ho!
Support American jobs while standing up for your values. OldGloryDepot.com brings you conservative pride on premium, made-in-USA gear. Don't settle. Wear your patriotism proudly. Visit OldGloryDepot.com today.
I say this every election cycle, and I'll say it again. The 2024 political field was intense, so don't get left behind in 2025. If you're running for office, the first thing on your to-do list should be securing your name on the web. With a yourname.vote domain from GoDaddy.com, you'll stand out and make your mark. Don't wait. Get yours today.
Welcome to Breaking Battlegrounds for our special edition with Congressman Schweikert. How are you?
You know, I always worry when you use the term special. As long as it's not short bus. Is it?
Well, it's what your kids have told me to say, so I'm going to say it. I want to talk primarily today about your run for governor.
Okay.
I think it's a very important race, but, you know, we live in Trump world now where things change all the time, and right now we are making some parts of Iran a parking lot. What are your thoughts on this?
We haven't had a truly broad official briefing yet. So about 2/3 of what I know is what I read, just like you.
Just like everybody else, yeah.
And then about 1/3 is we've had a couple, being a senior member of Congress, a couple discussions of tactics, but some of this is more discussions of, do they need something from Congress?
Right.
Or what allies are playing nice but don't want their names mentioned?
Which are quite a few, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things going on because, and then one of the other things we're actually substantially involved in my official office is threat matrix.
Right.
Had a whole briefing conversation with a number of folks from my Jewish community early this morning. Just saying, look, as we get towards Friday, what security measures are being taken? Do they need help in moving some resources around, liaisoning with, the sheriff's department, the local police department? So there's dozens of things that go on in a moment like this, where we all see the pictures of the success of U.S. weapons.
Right.
Some of the decapitation strategy. But now, as a policy person, you also have to sort of manage through sort of the secondary effects of, will we have terrorist events? What just happened in Texas?
Right.
Was that a terrorist event? Well, it looks like it.
Sure does.
I need more details. And how do I make sure that at least the resources we can help provide, make sure something like that doesn't happen here?
What do you think, after this action, would you consider it being successful? Complete regime?
Yeah, there's some fascinating demographics of Iran. Persia, as a couple of my friends like to refer to it. It's fairly young.
Yes.
Very well educated.
Very secular. A lot of them are secular.
And that's what a lot of people don't know. So, you use these fancy words like it's a theocracy that is a klepto government. In other words, it's basically a religious-based mafia.
Right.
Is the better way to, in understandable language, where you have a small population that uses both the religious control to make money. And I can give you a living example. I was in Azerbaijan a couple of years ago. We were doing a big trade meeting,
Sure.
and that's where the location was. And this is right next to Iran. And I'm looking out, and there's these brand new Mercedes and BMWs and Audis driving by me with Iranian license plates. There's no headscarf from that driver. And they were in the fancy hotels heading towards the beach. I mean, you realize what a fraud,
100%.
what so much we see. There's this aristocracy that's figured out if you can crush and control people, you can have a great life, send your kids to school in Europe and other things. So from my heart, what would happen if you could actually – I'm uncomfortable with the term regime change. It hasn't worked particularly well for Western countries in the United States.
No.
But you got to give the president credit. If I had told you Venezuela would move their vice president to the presidency and they would become a country that's actually working with the West, you would have thought, but it's working. It's happening.
There's a reporter from the Free Press, Unheard. He's from Unheard, and he calls it what Trump specializes in is regime alteration, not regime change, regime alteration. And I think
that's actually a really creative way to approach it.
Yeah, and I think that's what he did. I mean, I have said this all along, and Trump's not said it, but I think Trump looked at Iraq and said, I don't want to repeat these things by replacing everybody. Who can run this government but give these people some sort of freedom and start opening trade and things? I think he's more of a gradual approach than people think.
Look, what have we learned? Troops on the ground become a target.
Yes.
Destroying the tools of a repressive regime actually give the population an opportunity to now have influence. So I'm incredibly optimistic. But then again, I'm 63 and I adopted a 3-year-old. Of course I'm optimistic. But I'm hopeful on this. And one of my proof of concepts that we may be blessed that at least early on. Now remember, we're only functionally 3-some days into this. Look at futures markets.
Yes.
I'm a big believer that markets have much more information than governments often have. It's the arrogance of government.
Correct.
Oil's up, but not by much.
No.
The stock market's actually remarkably stable. Interest rates are remarkably stable, even with our trading partners. Provide the resources, light a candle, hope for the best, and provide the technology and the information. There's some very dodgy things that still have to be dealt with.
100%.
What's the stash of weapons that might be used to repress the native population? The ability, we've had amazing success. It's public now of smuggling in Starlink satellite dishes to have communication and access to the internet. So there's a lot of other things also going on.
We've had actually the last 2 weeks people who actually smuggle the Starlinks into the countries, and those have been interesting conversations.
I didn't know how I did not realize how public that it was until
those
about
routes,
2 days
those
ago.
routes are 1,000 years old. And it's amazing.
And understand, there are sort of in some of the rural regions, there are some autonomous populations
100%
that are well armed and have been running we'll call it a lukewarm war with the regime for many, many years.
Yeah, no. Before we go on now, I want to talk about governor, but there's 2 facts I learned this weekend. Financial Times did a story today that the Israelis had hacked the street cameras in Iran, and that's how they knew where the Ayatollah was with the CIA asset, because they had been watching his coming and goings, which just is amazing to me. And that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, I have to. One of the crazy things about, particularly with you, because you read too much, I always have to be very careful saying, okay, I got something 2 weeks ago in the skiff because I don't sleep well, so because I drink far too much coffee and the time change. So when I'm wandering around the Capitol at night and I'm angry at everyone for not being tough enough on spending, I will go down to what we call the skiff, and you sign in. You say I'll go to jail if I leak this information, and you go and read. And sometimes the reading isn't nearly as interesting or exciting as you think it is, and sometimes it's better explained in the New York Times the day before.
Yes.
But there's lots of methodologies in a modern technology society. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree. The one last fact I forgot about, I was reading the book of Reagan Land about Carter during Iran, and I forgot because you and I are both vintage. We're not old, we're vintage. I forgot about Muhammad Ali offering himself to replace the hostages, and it was rejected.
But people also don't realize I was a senior in high school in 1980. Yes, I am that old. At Saguaro High School right here in town. And I still remember, there was a big movement that wanted to drop nuclear weapons, thermal nuclear weapons on parts of Iran.
Yes.
People forget just how angry
they were
part
mad.
of the populace was, and you should have been.
That's how we got Nightline, because ABC found the consumers wanted as much information as possible about the hostages in Iran, so they created Nightline. That's how we got it.
I did not know that.
That's the only reason we had it, and became a staple for decades. All right, Governor.
All right, let's
talk about Governor. So
well, let's do a combination of Governor and the idiocy of Congress. So let's do any way you want.
Okay. Well, I want to do this one. Here's one question I get asked a lot. So I was telling people you were coming in today. They said they all know we have a problem with water. They don't know what the solution is. What would a Governor Schweikert do on the water situation?
All right. Now, if you can give me a 3-hour show and let me bring my slides in. Okay, the classic...
Cindy will set that up.
I'm serious about this.
Yeah.
I beg for all of us that care about water,
Right.
which should be every Arizonan.
100%.
Never, ever, ever use what you just said, the solution. It turns out there's 100 things we're going to do.
Okay.
It turns out an ultimate solution is a unified theory of, okay, here's where we're going to have to change some infrastructure. Over here, we're going to have to create some incentives. And then you have to first also understand the hierarchy. This is surface water. We have multiple sources of that. Surface water that's Colorado River based, surface water that's internal watershed based, groundwater rights, severability on some of those rights, our tribal agreements. Arizona has enough water. Part of it is where it's at, how do you move it, and how do you get to it, and there's crazy things. I sat down with a group of professors, well, 2 professors from U of A a couple weeks ago, and they were working on this thing saying, give me the 100 solutions from the least effective, hey, we want you to put in this landscaping, to the most effective, and it's effective divided by money. Do a diversion dam up on the Salt River, so the 3 times a decade we're running water down the Salt River, we can have it settle. It's a sediment type of dam where you let it settle and you put it in the CAP and run it to Pinal County and Pima County and allow the CAP water that would have gone there and stored in Lake Pleasant. Well, that costs maybe $140 million. Down to what was fascinating in our hierarchy list that we're building, we're still not done with it. In the middle are leaking pipes.
Right. Like 10%, 10 to 15% of our water goes through leaky pipes. Right?
I'm impressed. I've never had anyone else that knew that. Even I knew it was big. I didn't realize it was that
huge.
big.
Huge.
In Tucson, Phoenix, and our others where you have 70-year-old pipes. And it turns out sometimes you don't repair them, you go around them. It's cheaper to go around them.
Oh, that makes sense.
With new equipment than dig it up, repair
that makes
it.
Sense.
But you also now have to have uncomfortable conversations because people, as I say this, I want you to be calm. Those professors that sat down with me, they were promoting a solution, saying, David, here's our charts. Mm-hmm. God knows I now have enough charts. Almost 47% of the water in Arizona was actually going to cattle feed.
Yeah.
Hay and alfalfa. Now, their proposal wasn't to cut it off. Their proposal was saying, do realize if we would do some substitution of other crops. Now, they were partially promoting a type of algae that actually apparently is really good for cattle and makes the cattle really tasty and uses a fraction of a fraction of a fraction and yet has remarkable yields because of our how warm it is here. And saying, look, if you could provide an incentive to do some of this substitution, you actually have plenty of water. Just in that one category, if 47% of your water goes to cattle feed. And there's where you actually have to do, and I know I'm not rambling, I'm trying to explain the real solution is lots of solutions.
Right. There's not one home run.
There's no sort of silver bullet in this.
Right.
And in some ways, I'm not sure you want a silver bullet. If you're building a system that's going to be robust for the next century, turns out lots of things are I love technology. I'm a technology geek. I actually went to Israel about, almost a decade ago. And part of my tour with my wife is we went out and saw agriculture where they were growing same products as we do in Arizona. And they were doing it for like 20, 25% of the water because of the irrigation, the drip systems, and those things. Okay, wonderful. We can do that. It's expensive. How do you finance it? So some of this also becomes about money. When you pay your water bill, almost half that water bill, in many places more than half, is just electricity. You have to lift it up. You have to store it. And so you got lots of people that are really, really, really smart on water, but they know one little section of it.
Right.
And so we've been doing, on a personal basis, I've been doing meetings with everything from Salt River Project to CAP to the professors. If you're going to run for governor, it really annoys me, whether it be my opponent or the incumbent, when you get these trite answers to complex problems. Turns out complex problems often require complex solutions. Doesn't mean they're unattainable. You just have to be willing to sometimes do lots of things all at the same time to make it all work.
What is the most common question you get asked as you campaign for governor from constituents, activists? What is the most? Is there one common one that's continually coming?
And it's one I wasn't prepared for. What do we have to do to win?
No, well,
it turns out. No, I'm serious.
No.
Serious.
Polling shows it's the number one issue for Republicans. It has every cycle. I always laugh when people say this. It's always in the high 50s.
But
they want the person who can win.
But I've never seen the number like this. I met in Tucson about 10 days ago with the ultra MAGA group. I mean, I think half this room had Donald Trump tattoos. I mean, it was these folks are devoted.
Right.
Number one question was, we're tired of losing. You know, when you figure, I'm sorry, like look at the last 8 years, the last 4 election cycles. We lost the Senate, we lost the governor, lost the attorney general. Though the attorney general race still bothers me. It
bothers
dodgy.
me a lot.
Yeah, there's something wrong in those numbers. But then lost Secretary of State. And then this last time, if I came to you and said, Ruben Gallego is your U.S. Senator, if I told you that a couple of years ago, you would have stared at me and go, you're out of your mind. What happens sometimes, it's not that we're nominating people that are too conservative. I believe we're nominating people that hadn't focused enough on the morality of prosperity. That independent voters, by election day, by November election day, the number of independents in Arizona will be equal to the number of Republicans. Particularly if you put in the independent, no labels party. They're right now only 24,000 short. It turns out independent voters lean left. More of them are former Democrats.
Correct.
And that's actually part of our problem. People say, well, look at the difference between Republicans and Democrats. They don't understand. No, the Democrat just relabeled himself. So when was the last time you saw a Republican campaign, particularly from a conservative, a pro-life, classic, free market conservative, that fixated on prosperity, wage growth, making your life better, making it easier to live in the community, the future of your family, you being able to buy a house, the stress you're feeling, the fact that Biden inflation was so high in this community, most working people are poorer today than they were 4.5 years ago.
Yep.
Because wages haven't caught up to how much inflation we have there. I don't want to curse on your show, but start giving a darn about people. And we've run too many races where our candidates, they're angry about things I'm angry about. But that doesn't get you an independent voter who's just trying to survive out there and they're with us on so many issues.
Yes.
But the number one issue most people are about is, how do I take care of my family?
Number one. It's the number 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Then show up and care about them.
Right.
How do I win in a 50-50 district? I'm the Democrats' most expensive loss in America. They have spent I have trouble believing this, but NRCC was showing me a chart that over the last 6 years, they've spent almost $50 million trying to take me out.
Well, I will submit to you it's more than that because they never really tracked C4 union money.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you win. And we know the dodgy things. They flew in union people from California
they're saving
last race.
50 at a third.
So, but it proves you can be a conservative.
Yes.
You don't have to become squishy on issues. You can be tough as nails. Know your stuff. Know your facts. And care about people.
Yep.
And show up. The one thing you'll find, and you know this, I show up at everything. There's not a Diwali festival I don't show up at. I've spoken at even, and this was an interesting one. You know, I've shown up at places that sometimes Republicans are uncomfortable showing up at. And you often find this weird thing of, you're the first Republican ever to visit us. Can I introduce you to some of our members? His first name is Doctor. His first name is Doctor.
Right.
And you start to have the conversation. We are conservatives. Conservatives love and care for people. It is part of our Christian ethic. It is our mandate to love and care and forgive. And I wonder why so many politicians don't step up and live both a combination of the faith and our philosophy and explain our path makes your life better, makes you freer, and gives you the ability to have prosperity that means you get to live the American dream with us.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. So we got a couple minutes left here. As I told your staff, I'd keep you on schedule. Why do you want to leave Congress and become governor of Arizona?
Okay. Apparently there's a rule back in Congress you're not allowed to strangle the people you work with. Laugh at it. It's more true than you want to do.
Is that more verbal or is it in writing?
No. Actually, okay. I'm the dean of the delegation. I've been a member of Congress 16 years. I've been the county treasurer. I've been in the leadership of the legislature. I've been very blessed. Our businesses did fairly well. I'm in a 50-50 district. I'm number 4 in Ways and Means. I chair the oversight. I'm the guy doing the investigations into the fraud and Medicare Advantage on organ procurement, which is just turning out to be insane. We just launched an investigation into hospice. We think we may have found things in L.A. County that make Minnesota blush. I also chair the Joint Economic Committee. I have 5 PhD economists, and another one that looks like he's about to defend. So I live in math. I write pieces of legislation to save the future. In 6.5 years, the Medicare Trust Fund is empty. In 6.5 years, the Social Security Trust Fund is empty. We double poverty of seniors in 7 years. We will double the number of baby boomers living on the street. It's immoral. I'm in a 50-50 district. I write these bills to fix what's going on in Medicare Part C, the Medicare Advantage, to save these things, to be part of the working group to save Social Security. And I can't get other members of Congress to step up who are in 15, 16, 20-point Republican districts. I think there should be a level of rage. And what they do is they go on Fox News or OEN or those things tonight, and they have an issue that will really piss you off. Mm-hmm. They're working on the rage bait, and those are real issues, but they're not the ones that take our society down because the math is the math. As of last Friday, we were borrowing $81,000 a second. Jeez. $81,000 a second. My 3-year-old that we've adopted, we need 104% of that little man's lifetime earnings just to pay government pensions. We've hit this level of immorality, and the very people you believe that are conservative warriors, they're great on all sorts of the easy issues.
But not this.
Voter ID. Okay, we all agree on that.
Right.
Stopping fraud. We all agree upon that. Give us shiny objects that we all agree upon and pound on them. Go to places that are hard, that if we don't get it right, our lives become miserable
100%
in several years. And I can't get a single other member of Congress to step up and do them with me. They talk about it all the time. So what happens if I cannot save Washington?
Save Arizona.
But I see the things going on in Arizona with where we're going demographically, the fact that we're going to be having to close schools. We're going to have double the number of seniors in the near future. Parts of I've been memorizing the state budget. Part of our state budget, and this is going to hurt some people's feelings, is a fraud.
Sure.
One-time spending that you owe again next year. I'm sorry, handing $1 million last year to a flying car company. We can save Arizona and we can have a revolution of prosperity here, of adopting technology. We're working on a proposal. I want almost same-day permitting in Arizona, where I'm gonna add a garage to my house. It's within my CC&Rs. I can walk in. I hit the button. The AI at the county or the city certifies my plans, maybe gives me a red line. I hit the button, I accept it. It reaches over to the Department of Revenue, gets me my tax paper, reaches over to the county, gets my dust permit. Could you imagine how much industry, business, prosperity moves here if we can basically stop the bureaucratic malaise that is up and down this state's government and adopt the very technologies that so many other businesses and other places in the world are adopting? You can cut the size of government and dramatically improve the customer service. That's what we're going to do.
Well, thank you a million for visiting us today.
No,
It's
thank you for
fantastic,
having me.
And we want to have you back on, and we may have you back on for the 3 hours on water.
Actually, you laugh about that.
No, but I would. I'd love to have it.
I'd
I'd have to book it at a night when they have other shows after us. But I'd
Yeah,
love
when
to
no
have
one's
that.
listening. And the problem is, part of it's visual, because can you believe I have a chart?
No. It's that's the thing is they are listening because of social media now. This will go out and hit. I mean, we're getting 100 million engagements a month on our social media, so people will see this. So that's the point now. Doing these interviews, they get out if they use social media correctly with the interview. So it'd be surprised.
It's one of the reasons I think your show works so well is you don't talk down to people. And I really believe, I do these floor speeches every week. Some are very complex. Some go on for an hour. Do you know I'm getting I've had a couple over 2 million views.
100%.
And what's happened is it's proof of concept that this world of, you got to say everything in a 20-second soundbite is not true. Stop talking down to the voters. Turns out they're a hell of a lot smarter than the electeds.
They are.
Maybe demonstrate that there's a path where the future is wonderful if we just get our act together.
David Schweikert, thanks a
Thank you
million.
for having me.
Appreciate you. This is Breaking Battlegrounds. We'll be back next week. Whether it's hurricanes in Florida, earthquakes in California, flooding in Arizona, or supply chain disruptions.
Exactly, Chuck. When pharmacies shut down, it does not matter how tough you are, you still need access to critical medicine.
That's why we trust Jace Medical. The Jace case comes with 5 life-saving antibiotics and key over-the-counter meds, so you're covered when things get disrupted.
And Jace goes beyond just the Jace case. They also offer first aid kits, daily prescriptions, and long-term nutrition with Jace Pantry. Don't wait for the next hurricane warning or natural disaster. Take control of your health and peace of mind today.
Visit jace.com and use code FUTURE at checkout for $10 off your order. That's FUTURE at JASE.com.
In today's digital world, standing out is more important than ever. Whether you're running for office, leading a cause, or hosting a vote for the cutest pet in town, you need a web domain that's simple, memorable, and action-oriented. You need a .vote web domain. It's clear, impactful, and establishes a lasting presence for your campaign. Don't wait. Head to GoDaddy.com or name.com, type in your name.vote, and get started today. Because after all, every pet deserves a web address that's as special as they are.